So how's your day so far?
Today has been long. I have done 4 of my own podcasts plus yours.
Today?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So are you on
There's
fumes? Are you out of things to say?
I'm sure I can come up with a few other things, but you might get a little bit more unfiltered, Jessica, than earlier in the day. I do a bunch of work with the Department of Labor, and so we had a couple prep calls, and then we had a podcast interview. So I feel like as the day has progressed, I have a lot less F's to give. If I can, I don't know if I can cuss on this podcast, but that's kind of how I feel
Well,
right
I
now.
certainly hope you will feel free to because it's
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, good.
we're in HR, so we need a place to vent safely, okay, on occasion.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's been a day, but it's good.
Now, so what's the hot topics that you're talking about now on your podcast?
On the pocket, well, we have a couple different series that we're doing. I have the Chief Human Resources Officer series, so I've been interviewing for the last year and a half since all this pandemic madness started. Different CHROs and Chief People Officers to hear about their jobs, what they're doing, different initiatives, and we have interviewed. I think we've published 18 different interviews so far,
Wow.
so it's been really interesting to talk to HR leaders from companies as small as 25 people all the way up to 350,000. I had the CHRO of IBM, Nicole
Oh wow.
Lamoureux, on the podcast. So it's interesting how similar the job is, but how very different it is when you go from, a small business to large, super large enterprise.
Yeah, I don't think I could operate in a business that big anymore after having been through it a little bit. Big corporations, not a good fit.
No, not for me either. That's why I'm self-employed. I'm unemployable by anyone but myself, but that's okay. I like what I do. Nicole has been at IBM her entire career.
Oh my.
So imagine being at one place over 15 years.
No, my dad did that. He was at Ford, and he was actually in HR his entire career, and he doesn't get this changing jobs things. It's funny, but that's kind of how it works these days, and or you go work for yourself like you did. You're following the script that a lot of us in HR think we want to do because it looks so cool. I mean, you were doing this pod or blog, right? And that where it started
Yep, I
gained a
started a
lot of
blog
traction.
in 2005, and I was writing about job search strategies. I was using it to fill my funnel, and it gained popularity during the recession.
Yeah.
And I lost my job because of my blog. And then I became an entrepreneur full time.
Okay, there's a story there.
I, someday I really want my old boss to send me an email to say, I listened to you talk about me on the podcast. So they were really worried about my blog. This is like 2008, 2009 timeframe. And I was using it to fill positions. So I was using social media really early, and our retention was better when I hired on Twitter or MySpace or wherever. And I had the numbers to back it up. And we had an EEOC charge at one of my call centers, and I had done the investigation. And so funny, the same employee from this charge later on, she tried to hire me to write her resume, which was hilarious. But she filed a charge, and then my boss came in, and then the counsel for the company. I was working at Office Max at the time, and at the end of our conversation about the investigation, I had done everything we needed to do. We just needed to write our standard response to the EOC, and he said, "Is there anything else you need to know? I need to know about you if I was to put you on the stand." And I said, "Well, everybody knows that needs to know, but I'll let you know. I have a blog. It's it's anonymous. It was Jessica M. It wasn't anything of note, on a free blogspot blog, and I write about the job search. And it was not very long after that I was promoted to customer. That's what we used to say in retail. You were promoted to customer when you get fired. So I was fired because of my blog. It's called Deuced is what it's actually like the actual term is called. So it was still when
Is it
social media
really?
was
There's
really early. Hmm.
so you were one of the first people to get Well, I guess it's
And
not canceled, but
there were others, but yeah. Yeah, I got fired. It was also the same day that I announced my decision to enter full-time entrepreneurship. Might be related, but
wow.
it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me, because I don't know if I ever actually would have left full time, because I think there's a lot of folks who are hustling on the side, which is totally fine, but it is scary to rip off the band-aid and then just leap off the cliff, which is, somebody did that for me, and I had to figure out how to make it work. And I have done 1,000 different ways of trying to make it work. And I will say that in the last 3 years, I feel like I've cracked the code for what works for me as an entrepreneur and following my passion in the HR space.
Well, I mean, you've got a pretty impressive. I guess you've got this organization now where it's exceptional HR consulting, right? And then that
Mhm.
manages Workology,
Correct.
and you do a ton with the HR certifications. I saw that the ACE the exam. I mean,
Mhm.
you're in, man. You're like a conglomerate. It obviously didn't get. That's not easy to do.
No, I mean, I, it's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of long hours. I mean, even during the pandemic, I mean, I was like terrified because our business, a lot of our business comes in through sponsorships. And so suddenly that shut down
Mm,
and I didn't know what was going to happen. So we already had our HR certification prep course and I had a practice test product. And we launched 3 other products within really, well, 2 other products within like 3 months, because I was like, what the heck am I going to do? I got to make sure it's not just feeding me, it's feeding my team. I've got to make my payroll. So
right.
that was what was driving me. And there were mornings where I woke up at 7, got up, walked the 15-second commute to my office, and I didn't get up until midnight. Because I was working to save the business. And I will say that like last year was our best year ever. And um, I have learned that even though we aren't traveling or seeing people in person, I can still have a successful business that helps elevate the community that I love. And I am gonna step into the rest of 2021 and moving forward, like doing our own way. I don't need to travel in person. I'm going to go to the places that I want to go to. I have a trip to Jamaica planned, Bali later this year, and then I think I'm going to the Maldives in February. So if you want a conference in the Maldives, let me know. I'll probably be hosting like cruise HR conferences or something. I don't
Oh,
know.
that's fantastic. Well, again, I mean, it's an overnight success that took you about 16 years, right?
A long ass time, but I think most importantly, like you have to really have yourself dialed in to figure out like who you are as a person and being okay with that person so that you can help serve other people.
Well, I think ultimately, hopefully, at our heart in HR, we all have something similar at the bottom of it. We've got to be here doing something for others. And you mentioned though, and I think it's interesting because you kind of got kicked out of the nest, you got promoted to customer.
Hmm.
Same thing happened to my wife. Same thing happened to a lot of people, probably during the pandemic, right? And it's funny how many entrepreneurs I know that are pandemic entrepreneurs that are now they finally got the opportunity. Maybe they finally got a little extra relief coming. But it does sometimes it takes a nudge. It's a tough thing to do to go out on your own. How
Best
long before
decision I
you
never
hired it?
made for myself.
Yeah, well, that's because we wouldn't do it. How
Yeah.
long? How long would you say you were doing it on your own before you kind of got a chance to expand it? You hired somebody. You actually had a team.
So I've went through different iterations of things. I mean, I hired an intern off of Twitter. This is back in the day, like, and he worked with me. He ran our operations for a couple of years after that. Um, our team is much bigger now. I will say. I mean, if I'm talking to people who are getting ready to make the leap, make hire a VA, a virtual assistant, as soon as you can. Having a VA, even doing small things like organizing my email. Like I was panicking before we got on the podcast here because um, my VA didn't send me my link to get to the podcast. But every morning she sends me like, or every night before the next day, she sends me a list. Here of all the meetings you have. Here's why I think you're having them, so that I can go back and at least I have some context, because I don't want to be that person that walks into a meeting that has no idea what's going on. It's just a bad look. So hire a VA, even if it's somebody from Upwork or the Philippines or wherever. I mean, I have some VAs. If you're interested, come on over. I have some good ones that we work with, and they help make my life easier.
It's funny because I had never even really heard of that concept before, and now it's twice in about a week I've heard of that. Somebody else who's also an entrepreneur, a guy named Andre Young, he was talking about this as well. Got a VA, and it totally made his life so much easier.
The 4-hour work week can really be a real thing. Now, I don't think I could ever work 4 hours a week, but the VA does help you. It gives me clarity and helps me breathe so that I can focus on the things that I'm really good at, which is not invoicing. It's not sending happy birthday requests on LinkedIn. It's not checking my email, any of those things. What I am really great at is helping HR leaders, teacher trainer. I love podcasting. I love doing video. Those things are all really, I just love coming up with new ideas. Like the crazier, the better. So that is my gift. And if you can afford it, and sometimes you have to think of like, how can I not afford it?
Right.
You have to make the investment in that. And personally, if I would go back, and I know a bunch of, if HR people are listening to this, and I hope you are, but you're going to frown your face right now and scrunch your eyes because it's in total violation of a policy. I would be, if I was in HR, if I worked at a corporation, I would hire a VA to read my emails for me at a company. And I know it's probably some violation of some standard operating procedure 47-3, but there's no, I mean, my time should not be spent reading email. If there's a standard reply, and somebody who is trained to be able to do that can do that. That's why AI and automation is something a lot of people are looking at. You should do it. So if it was me and I wanted to come up with a perk for all my maybe high performing managers, I would all hire them a VA on freelancer.com, give them 10 hours a week and let them do all the things. They would never leave your organization because they're working like crazy hours. You guys are checking email on your vacation. I check email. It's, a little bit different, but my goal is to work as little as possible, but focus on the things that I love doing.
Well, you know what? You just described basically our business model at the last two companies I've worked at were management service organizations. We work with healthcare providers and let them do that. We do all the other garbage, the
Yeah.
stuff they don't like. So no, I mean, it makes a heck of a lot of sense because you get stuck in that wormhole of email, and that's just there's very little production coming out of that.
Yeah, I just get stuck answering the same thing over and over and over again. Or then I get mad because somebody sent me a really ridiculous email, or some vendor pitched me something that, about casino gambling. I work in HR. Like, come on. Like, let's be real. Like, send me a case of vodka or something else. Don't send me poker chips. I don't know. I did get some vodka in the mail last week, though, from somebody that liked my blog. They were a vodka company. So I was like, sure, I'm never going to say no to alcoholic beverages delivered to my
Well,
office.
if we're actually requesting that, then anybody from Deep Eddies listening to this
Oh,
podcast,
yeah.
I would love some of their lemon vodka because that's my jam.
You know what you need to do? Here's what you do. You need to interview somebody from Deep Eddies on your
Yeah.
podcast, and then they're going to send you
Okay.
some. So I just finished an interview with the chief people officer at Torchy's Tacos. I love Torchy's. I didn't
Oh yeah.
ask for gift cards, but I've been told that there are some coming in the mail. So if you want free stuff, you need to just interview your favorite company, somebody there, and probably as a thank you, they'll send a bottle of really good vodka your way.
There you go. See, it's coming from pros like you that we learn this type of stuff. This is the
Yes.
value.
Yes. Buy my course, whatever that is. Download
Yeah.
my freebie.
Now you were talking about, one of the benefits you have the VA is kind of lets you do what you do best. What is like at the top of your list right now importance to you that you love doing? What is it?
But the most important thing that I love doing, well, I told you I've done like 5 hours of podcasting today, but I love podcasting. Oh my gosh, it is so much fun. I love connecting with people. I just love hearing their stories and
Yeah.
digging the stories out of them. Because sometimes you'll have somebody on your podcast and they're, you know, they're like, oh, I just do, HR and this is all I do every day. And I'm like, come on, there's more to the story. And then a few layers below the surface, you find out that this person um, transitioned their call center to completely virtual in the middle of a pandemic and set up a virtual onboarding process and seasonal hiring for 350 people. And I'm like, there's your story. So that's what I love doing, is finding that story and then sharing it with the broader HR community. It could be training, it could be videos, but the podcast one is what I love because it's a two-way conversation versus just me talking and you listening.
Right. Now, are you doing all the production in the back end too, or do you have somebody that does that for you?
I Hell no, I'm not doing any of those things. No. Oh my God, that would take forever. And
I
again,
know.
not worth my time. I mean, I have somebody I've worked with for since the podcast started, and he does all our post production. I've never edited a thing. He told me what equipment to buy. He told me what tools to use, and then I pick the guests. But we do have a pretty standard process for outreach. And then my VA does follow up with everybody. We have questions beforehand. It is a machine. But I think I know it's the reason we've been able to get really great companies on. Like I just talked with Google. Their chief accessibility officer is going to be on our podcast. And normally I wouldn't be able to have a conversation with somebody from Google. I mean, they don't answer my emails right now,
Right.
but they read my emails, but they don't answer. But I'm able to work with their comms team really easily because we have a really good system that the PR and the communications team trust.
Well, here's my announcement today too. Is this will be I've edited the production for all of mine,
Ugh,
and it's exhausting. Even though I kind of, it was a labor of love at first, and then that wore off quickly. But so my son, my oldest son, he's 20, and he is kind of a whiz, and he's going to be doing some podcast production now.
good.
Because it takes 2 or 3 hours of dedicated time, and it just takes some of the fun out of it.
A single podcast for us, I think I did the numbers, it's at least 10 hours of work.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, making the graphics, doing the show notes, um, all the other things, the editing, the production behind the scenes. This is why people don't do a lot of podcasts, or they don't do them for very long. I thought blogging was hard. Podcasting is a whole nother level of intensity and work and dedication.
How long have you been doing the pod?
7 years. 7 years.
Really?
Yeah, we're approaching
Wow.
300 episodes.
I'll be darned. You're out front of most people then, because that's a lot. That's a long time in podcasting.
It is. It's like I'm like 27 in podcast years. I don't know. I didn't want to be 21. I want to be like mature, but still I get carded. So
Yeah, just kind of. She might not be. Yeah, I got you.
yeah, they don't feel about me that way right now. That's okay. But in podcast, yeah, maybe so.
And you're also recognized as an expert. Who are you working with? Like Forbes, and is that you do some work for Forbes as well?
I write on the Forbes Council, and I've done that for holy cow, a really long time since he first started. I have a friend who started the Forbes Council, and I had gotten some recognition a couple times on Forbes for being a leading career resource, and so they invited me to be a part of that. So I write for Forbes. Honestly, I will write for other. I've written an entrepreneur. I've CBS, like I did a lot of things on Huffington Post, but at the end of the day, I would rather write on my own site and my own community because I own the space and I can control what happens and what the experience is like.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like I mean you've got plenty of reach on your own. I think you're over 500,000 people that you are in this network. Is that right?
More than that now. I mean, we have over 500,000 people signed up for our newsletter. So we have a weekly newsletter that goes out to HR leaders and workplace leaders. every single week. And then we have our podcast and then the website. So, all told, we are over 800,000 people that we touch in a single month, which
That's
blows my
crazy.
mind. Yeah.
That is crazy. How can people sign up for your newsletter?
They just need to go to workology.com/newsletter
Okay.
and sign up. And what I try to do is my job is to help make your life easier as a busy workplace leader or HR pro. Like I just serve up the good stuff that we find on the web. Sometimes it's mine, sometimes it's others, sometimes it's Fox News on occasion, not generally, but I will send those to you on email along with some featured jobs and I also like to pull some research that you can use when you're talking to your executive team or you're thinking about different projects or programs, initiatives to start.
And that's weekly? You're
Yeah.
doing that? Wow. That's a lot. I mean, it's curating, but also some creations. So that's a lot of work, though. You
Yeah, but
obviously have a team.
I have a good team, and then like if I read something, and it's funny, like we have a Slack channel just for the newsletter, so the hashtag newsletter. So if anybody reads anything that they think is interesting, different, unusual, they throw it in there. Mine normally get thrown in about 3 a.m. 12:50 when I can't sleep, and I'm like, I'm gonna read the news, and then I'll find some crazy story or some HR thing gone wrong, and I'm like, this needs to happen. On occasion I'll pull from, maybe Sherm will have something good, or they have a new toolkit, or we've written something for our clients that I feel like needs to be shared other places, or we link to something in research. So we just toss it into the Slack channel, and then my team pretties it up and puts it out every week.
So a big common theme we're all dealing with now in HR, obviously, is with COVID. Is you had the first part of the challenge was getting everybody out, and now we've been informing them, but getting them back to work. And so, there's all, when I say back to work, I mean office, live office.
Mhm.
And there's going to be varying degrees of hybrid work environments and the rest of it. Are you consulting a lot of companies along those lines right now about that return? Is that something you're vested in?
I've been really interested in what people are doing. I mean, I am on a global level. I just talked to the CHRO of Pega, or a tech company, global tech company with about 6,000 employees, and I felt like their approach is really unique. They're not taking the Apple approach, which is the mandate that you're coming in. I mean, that
Yeah.
is not working. I think it's part of the Great Resignation, and just if you want a union problem at your company, go ahead and send out that notice that everybody's coming to the office and it's going to be happening. So, unless you've talked to your people, I mean, if you're in the restaurant industry or manufacturing where people have to be
Mm.
there, it's a different story. But Pega is really working with our managers, and they have 5 different options for employees to choose from. And so it really depends on their location. For example, people that are working in India, they are not going to be going back to the office anytime soon.
Sounds like a
Uh,
good idea.
yeah, they are offering vaccinations for family members and employees at their offices, but they have, fully remote. They have in office fully, and then they kind of have different hybrids where it's remote first, and then you might go into the office on occasion, and then in person first, occasional remote. And so it depends on your schedule, what team you're on, and then also your performance and your job. Because if you need to be, I mean, an office manager probably needs to be in the office managing the
Hmm.
office. They can't be fully remote.
And we're going through this right now. I think the leadership team, we started coming back 2 days a week pretty regularly, and I think we might kick that up to 3 days. And then we're still tossing around. How do you handle when you want to get the rest of the employees back? We're targeting maybe Q4 to get some sort of schedule. But it's funny, you don't want to make, because you mentioned performance being one of the criteria, and that's definitely something, we've used that as an incentive before. But then you don't want to make the office punishment. It's like the people at the office, are they all the people who are in trouble? It's like, who has to come in? So our focus is, how do we make that really an enticing option to come into the office, that you want to be there? And what do you do with people who are still, there's going to be people who are fearful.
I
and
mean,
you have to.
I'm still wearing a mask. I have a co-working space in Austin. So we have a second business. I have a co-working space here with a friend of mine. And I'm still wearing a mask when I go to the bathroom and leaving in the public areas. Or I mean, I have friends here in Austin who came down with COVID last week. I haven't seen them, so I wasn't exposed, but it's still a very real thing. Personally, my daughter is going to remain in virtual school next year. She's thriving actually in it. We moved to a different school district that's remote only. Yeah, actually, I live here in Austin, but it's actually based in Houston, and it's called the Connections Academy, and fantastic.
Huh.
And she's loving it. So we're going to do it another year. She's seventh grader, so it does require a little bit more hands-on, but I would just encourage employers to make sure they talk to their people, pulse surveys, focus groups, that sort of thing, to understand the why maybe behind that decision. I will also say that a friend of mine last week was fired from her job because she refused to come back in person.
Mm.
She was hired remotely and had been working remotely. And she had disclosed that she has a disability, which the combination was a reasonable combination in my mind, is for her to work remotely. So I'm not sure what the amount of the check that is going to be written, but my friend works in recruiting and her boss is the head of HR.
Oh,
So it's, I just think that, like, whatever you're going through personally, or personal feelings about a person, whether, I don't know the whole story with my friend, but you can't let your personal feelings get in the way of these types of decisions, because they could be potentially detrimental to your company. I mean, I told my friend, you need to call an attorney right now. You need to make
yeah.
sure you follow up in your email and say, I have a disability. This is a reasonable accommodation. And then you get on the phone with an attorney. And then you tell them how much you want that check to be. So I told her, I was like, this is great. You could go on a vacation. You wouldn't have to work for 6 months, but it might take a while for you to get your money. But the point I'm trying to make here is, don't just assume that everybody's going to come back. There are different reasons. Mental health is a very real thing. The other thing I'll say is, your people might have moved. I have another friend who had a random employee move to Spain from the US, just up
Oh
and
wow.
moved, has been working the same schedule that they always had. And when they said, hey, we're coming back to work, is when my friend got the email that said, hey, I moved to Spain about 3 months ago. I
Wow.
won't be able to come back into the office. So that's a whole nother, like, situation. Like, how do you work through that? Personally, I'm moving to Belize. That's my goal. I want to move to Belize, my offshore business, and y'all can come and visit. And I'll run my little HR training program. I'll have a yurts. Everybody can rent them, and we'll do conferences. So.
Well, you know what? You hit the nail on the head when you said you have to explain the why. It's the why. If we're having discussions right now, and if you don't have a legitimate answer for why we think it's important, then you're really not, you're not making your employee, you're not engaging your employees, and you're not listening. I think, for instance, you mentioned your daughter's going to a virtual academy. You changed school districts. We had just the opposite. Our son was struggling, and so we pulled him, put him into a different school that was live only. They were live the entire time through the pandemic, and he, thrived. So, but that doesn't mean that I think everybody who wants to has the virtual. I can't bring my personal opinion to HR. That's one of the
Everybody's different.
right in HR. That's a tiger trap. You have to watch that at all times.
I
Um,
I also think that, like, when it comes to virtual, we really do need to focus on manager resources and support, because we've all been operating in this, like, survival mode,
mhm.
and now managers are going to have to balance remote with in-person leaders, like leadership and conversations and performance. How do we help support our managers so they can do those things, so they aren't giving in-person people preferential treatment, or vice versa? So I think if I was an HR leader, I would be investing in some manager training and support for them, because they're the first line of defense, or maybe the last line of defense, in keeping your people, because they're leaving because of managers or their work schedule, or whatever, bad at work environment. That's why they're leaving. It's not because Susie HR wasn't nice enough during employee orientation, or that there isn't enough pizza in the break room. Like, they're leaving because it doesn't work for their life, or they're being harassed, or their boss is micromanaging them.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's especially it's a weird time now too, because some people are reluctant to work at all, and so you have it's the employees are definitely in they have some leverage. I
Mhm.
think certain professions more so than others, and you can't bring pride to the negotiating table if you're management and say, well, because we say so. That just doesn't go very far.
Yeah, millennials don't really respond that well to "because we say so." It's a big F you, and they
Yeah,
turn around, or they just leave and don't come back. Like, they don't even respond, and they're gone. And so, it's really hard to find good people. It's really hard to keep good people right now, but I'd rather keep the people that I have, instead of trying to go out and wage war in this crazy market that we have right now for talent.
it is. It is crazy. And you find that there's going to be some people who find themselves with leverage for maybe the first time in their careers, and they will apply it. I'm certain.
Yeah,
Now,
and they
I
should.
did. I wanted to ask you one question. I know we're running short on time, but okay, the brand. Where'd you come up with the brand Workology?
Oh Lord. So I was talking. So I did this article. It's probably still over, maybe still over on the Smart Recruiters blog. But I used to write for them. I don't know, when there was like 2 employees, and so I wrote blogs. I did a bunch of content with them, and I talked about the intersection of like the of art and science, of like being a workplace leader. And so I called it like Workology. And then, just really randomly, like, uh, one of my friends at Smart Recruiters, like, that's really good. You should do something with that. And then, lo and behold, I went to GoDaddy, and workology.com was for sale. Yeah,
For
at
how
an auction.
much?
Okay, so it was $5,000, which
Oh,
was a lot of money, but I did not pay $5,000.
okay.
I put in a bid for substantially less, because that's what you do. And then I
Right.
figured out the owner's email address, and I sent him a second email, after the first offer. I pretended to be another person that was an interested party, so that I could try to get the best price. But I ended up buying it for a lot less than 5,000. So I was a little sneaky in my tactics, but I was so excited I got it. And I mean, I feel like it's the originally the blog was called Blogging for Jobs, because it was a blog about a job, and it just didn't feel like it was me anymore. So we rebranded, gosh, probably about 7 years ago.
Wow.
And I had the domain for a while, but we transitioned everything over, which was a lot of work. But really now I feel like it really speaks to me. It's fun, little sassy, little smart, little nerdy, like, but most importantly, it's honest, and focused on helping people through resources and support.
I think it's great. Do you take a peek at GoDaddy now to see the value of your URL?
It's probably not worth that much. I mean, I have got some offers before. I've gotten a six-figure offer for Workology, and I turned it down. So I was
Wow.
like, yeah, my husband was not happy. He's like, why did you do that? I was like, because I think this is going to be worth, a lot more than this number.
Yeah.
So that was a little tense in our household for a couple weeks, maybe more than that. So yeah, that email was a fun one that I mean, it was so I'm very lucky. It the Like a lot of things in my life, like the universe just presents an opportunity, like it just, and we just have to decide to take it. That's how I ended up in HR. That's how I started my blog. That's how I ended up with the Workology name. It's just, are you ready, and are you willing to take the risk?
That's it. That's it. Because I think, well, some people might not even have their eyes open so much; they're not looking. But I totally, you and I are simpatico in the and that feeling. I know there are things that happen and they're happening. I'm aware of what of they're happening. I know there's a reason. So I'm looking for what is the what's the next step? What do I need to do here? Yeah, and you have at some point you have to take a risk. You do.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for anyone who is considering being an entrepreneur, uh, especially in the HR space, like you need to have a plan in place of what you're going to do. Don't be like me, just get fired from your job and not have a plan. Um, the influencer space is a lot different than it was when I first started. I mean, even still, I get emails, will you write this blog for free? Can you tweet us? Ha ha ha.
I
It's
know.
so cute. And I have just decided, like, I have a salesperson, we have a media kit, like I just respond, and my goal is to attract the right opportunities to us if it's a like a vendor sponsor. But also that's one of the reasons why we started selling courses and memberships, because I didn't want to be driven by vendors. I wanted to serve the HR community, and so that's why we started HR certification prep classes and the ACE the HR exam course, and different things, because being an entrepreneur is not easy. So don't give up, but try to have a plan and think about a product that you can sell that isn't going to be a lot of work. It's going to be more fun than work.
Well, yeah, it's got to be something that you believe in, or it's just drudgery. You're just drudgery, not getting a regular paycheck.
Yeah, and I mean, I made jokes like, "Oh, I'm going to travel the world and go on vacation," but like, real talk, I worked 16 hours yesterday. Like I took Friday and Monday off. I'm trying to take every Friday off this summer, and for my mental health, to be able to spend time with my family and just to be able to take a little bit of a break. So I spent yesterday trying to catch up because I had some things on my to-do list that I had to get done, but not every week is like that. But most importantly, like, I'm in charge. It took me a while to figure that out. Like, I'm in charge of my schedule. I'm in charge of how I work, when I work, and what I work. Not I don't have a boss, but I had been operating this thing where the work I was working for the work, not the other way around.
Hmm. Well, you seem to have figured it out now, though, and you've got a great thing going. It's you're a visible influencer in the industry. It's funny because it is kind of crowded now. There are some people, some big names, but the product that you have with the test prep, that's a great differentiator. I think that's awesome that you do that.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, we build our own learning management system. So, I when I started this, it was before any of those, like, things that you can get now. Really, any of the, like, mainstream course classes that you see, long before those. And I made a lot of mistakes, but we have the HR certification prep classes do really well. If you're interested in the things that we have, I would suggest you go to www.learn.workology.com, and you can see all the offerings of four different offerings for HR certification prep: test questions, on-demand course, some mini courses, and then we also have professional development for HR too. Like, I have a membership subscription, monthly membership that you can access, and you get live content and then on-demand access too, and some other fun things. So it's been nice to serve the HR community like that, and it's a personal experience with our students and members.
Well, on the professional development, you're those are accredited too, right? You get
Everything is. Yeah, I
right.
am certified and approved provider with SHRM and HRCI. I have been since the Mom at SHRM came out with their program, but we've been with HRCI for, Lord, I don't know, 14 or 15 years. So if you have an SPHR, I have all the business credits you need. And if you want to attend webinars and presentations that don't result in a bunch of phone calls and emails and sales pitches, you should come over to ours, because I don't sell your information when you sign up for the membership. Like, you get access into our private group, and then you do the learning on your own schedule. And then a couple times a month we have live events. This month we have a live demo with an HR tech company, UKG. So if you're interested in Ultimate Software Chronos, and then I have a mental health expert coming on talking about burnout. So those are a couple
Ooh.
on live learning opportunities for anybody, any HR leader of any skill or experience level.
Well, anybody in HR should have their ears perked at that because you, it's, well, maybe not everybody. I could just be speaking for myself, but you put it off, and then it's like, oh man, I really need to get some of these credits, and you end up getting the white paper from somebody, and then having to listen to the 10-15 minute sales pitch, and then you're never going to get off their mailing list, and it's kind of a drag.
It is. I mean, that's why I have a VA to read all my email,
Right.
like
That's right. I
because
need a
there's
VA
so
to
many
do
of them.
my certifications. That's what I need.
Oh
I need a
man.
VA to
Yeah. Well, if
test
you're a
for me.
procrastinator like me, come on over. If you're not a procrastinator, you're welcome to come over too. I'm that person at 10:59 because I'm in the central time zone and the SHRM and HRCI are not. They're in Eastern. So I have to submit my stuff at 10:59, not 11:59. I've learned the hard way for that because then they go under maintenance and I end up having to pay the extra money at HRCI because I didn't get it by the end of the month of my birthday for my research stuff. So anyway, if you need a place to go for that, or you just want to have fun with HR, I feel like a lot of places are really serious, and I can be serious. We can be serious, but like, what's the point if we aren't having fun and enjoying ourselves? Like, if the pandemic has taught me anything, like, I want to do what I love and I want to have fun and be happy and joyful when I do it.
That seems like a pretty simple request, and I think, you know what, I think a lot of us learned that too, and getting closer to our families, and there are some silver linings. We just got to keep reminding ourselves, and hopefully we get out of this one and don't
Yeah,
look back.
we got to get our return to work going and then get our annual benefits re-enrollment happening and any type of budgeting because that's starting here soon,
Oh
right? And
man,
yeah, sorry,
yeah, it is.
everybody's getting the shakes and a little twitchy because I'm telling you all the things on your to-do list that you didn't want to hear.
Yeah, and you know what's going to be a really pivotal moment too is that back to school moment this year when parents are having to make decisions like you've made, I've made, everybody's making, and the impact that has on returning to work. I think that's almost its own category of things that we're going to have to consider because it's you start messing with how a parent wants their child to be treated, and you're walking into dangerous waters. So
True, true, true.
you know how that goes. Well, now I need to ask. I'll cut this out. You need to go because I want to make sure I'm okay, respectful of your time.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're
all
my
right.
last appointment of the day.
Oh wow. Well,
Yeah.
is that water you're drinking, or are you knocking back
Oh,
your
water.
cocktail?
But I do have a bunch of wine over here because I need to take it home. I just have my wine delivery to my office. So, yeah,
Nice. Well,
yeah.
there's always room for a bottle at the desk. You you have the podcast, you have the newsletter, you've got the training, you're still doing articles occasionally, I guess. You're still doing that?
Yeah, we do content development for clients, and then we're posting on the Workology website too. Although it's just more thoughtful and intentional than it was before. I'm not just writing to write.
Yeah.
It is there's a plan and a strategy, or it's just timely information.
Yeah, I started blogging I think in 2008, and it then you kind of go ebb and flow, and now I only really post when I read something and it just tweaks me. Like, all right, I got to go after this one, and I kind of like doing it that way. And podcasting is so much more enjoyable to me. It really is.
Yeah, well, I
So
feel like it gets you out of your head, right? Writing is a really solitary activity where
mm,
we're in our own brain, working through all those things. But this is more of a social activity where you and I are having a real conversation and I'm learning and you're learning at the same time. Like it's a lot more fun. And for somebody like me, and some people might be surprised, but I'm a little bit more introverted than most people know. I'm good in small groups. I do not like big conferences or events. I will speak, but I'm terrified, peeing my pants while it's happening, wanted to throw up. But I would rather do um, small things or podcasts because it's just easier for me. And I don't. I'm an anxiety drinker, so when I go to that conference, I go right for the liquor, and I have a lot of fun, but it loosens me up so I don't have so much anxiety. But it's probably not the best life choice. Like looking back, how did I not get fired in my HR career for those kind of things. So, I mean, I still think it's good to have fun and let loose. Um, I I just like the podcast because it keeps me out of trouble, and I get to meet cool people or reconnect
Yeah.
with people too.
Well, so what do you do for fun with the family and stuff when you're not working and doing all the stuff that we've listed?
Um, so I have said I'm going to be traveling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in Jamaica next month for 2 weeks, and then we're going to Bali for a couple weeks in September. As long as the Delta variant doesn't go crazy, like travel's open.
Yeah.
So I like to travel, and I want to do more of that. We have been like during the pandemic, kind of doing the Texas tour. I live in Austin,
Yeah.
and so like this 4th of July weekend, I went to what I thought was going to be educational and interesting. I went to Lake Gonzales, which is not educational or interesting. It's really a pit of mud with a lot of algae. And but I learned a lot about the city of Gonzales and its place in Texas history. So we're going to College Station in a week and a half, and we're renting an Airbnb there when my daughter goes to swim camp. And I've never been to College Station. I'm not
That's
originally
my
from
alma mater.
Texas. Yeah,
That's my alma mater.
I'm from K State actually. That's where I
Oh,
graduated
I
from.
know, I
Yeah.
know. You guys are all over the place up here too. One of my closer friends is a K State grad, and his kids are K State grads, and they're all infested in Texas. You guys are
You
all
know,
over the place.
it's so funny because I don't actually give a crap about K-State other than I went there and that's where I got my degree. Like my family's diehard University of Kansas fans, KU.
Oh,
And my husband, and he is an OU fan, and he's like the biggest OU fan. So we live
oh
here in
no,
Austin, and
oh no.
I tell people that we've infiltrated the enemy and we are spies reporting on the whereabouts and activities of Texans. It's the whole rivalry is like, as someone who's not born from in Austin or a fan in that way, or from Norman, it's so hilarious, like how it runs. But at least I'm keeping in it what was formerly the Big 12.
Yeah,
A&M is no
that's
longer
true.
part of the Big 12.
No, we
We
got
miss
promoted.
you. We miss
Yeah,
you.
I know. We miss. Well, it'd be great knocking heads with the Longhorns again, but I'm not sure if that's ever going to happen. They seem to be doing. Both schools seem to be doing whatever they can to avoid that for some reason.
Well, that'd be kind of fun though. I mean, so we're going to College Station. I've never been.
You'll love it.
I'm looking forward. I mean, hey, it's much more affordable in College Station than it is in Austin, Texas. Like
Oh
maybe
yeah.
we'll move there. I don't know, probably not. But we're gonna go there. And like the other things I like to do. Sorry, I'm kind of off topic. I love paddleboarding. That's kind of my thing. And I also like to can. So I like to make my own. I like to cook and make my own chicken stock and tomato soup and all sorts of like crazy homemaker things.
That's great though. You
Yeah,
know
it's
what?
a lot of fun.
My wife, her company folded at the beginning of the pandemic, and while then she started her own thing, but she finally got back to where she could start cooking. Like, and she loves to cook.
Mhm.
And I mean, we've eaten like kings over the pandemic. All the stuff that she's gotten into, it's great. So kind of, it's a creative outlet for her, just for taking care of her family, and it's been awesome for me and my sons, obviously, because we're just, we're dogs. Put it in front of us, we'll eat it. But it's been gourmet stuff.
That's good. Yeah, I made duck tacos the other day. My husband, I mean, I didn't make them. He smoked the duck, and I did all the other. But like, it was kind of fun to try something a little bit new, a little bit out of the ordinary. And since we still aren't really traveling like a lot, like I'm not going anywhere other than these 2 trips, like not going to conferences like I was 2 or 3 times a month. I can be a little bit more creative and have more time to do those other things that I like to do.
Yeah, you mentioned how you're more introverted than people know. I am as well. I'm a closet introvert. And those big meetings give me such the jeebers just for and I'll speak at them and I can do okay. I get past that part, but it's just the small talk networking that I cannot stand in big groups. It's just drives me nuts.
That's why I love Twitter initially, because I could research everybody in advance, and then I knew I could find somebody, because there's nothing worse for me as being a little bit of an introvert, to walk into an expo hall or a room and not know anybody. I feel
Not
so
know anybody.
ridiculous. Yes.
Yeah.
So if I research you on Twitter, and this was like how it started, I could get some, like, I would know who you are, so I could walk up to you and say, "Oh, are do you HR Hardball? Like, what is that? Like, I follow you on Twitter." And nobody's going to say no. Oh, I don't know who you
Right.
are. Like, everybody loves
Right.
that. So it was such a great icebreaker to have. But I despise like networking. I would much rather find one person. I normally, this is my strategy. I normally find the chattiest person who knows everybody, the woo. And I say to them, I say, "Hi, my name's Jessica. I'm new here. You seem to know everybody. Can you make some intro? Can you tell me who you know?" And they're going to say, "Yeah," because that's what they do. So then I meet everybody. That's my strategy. At every
That's a good strategy.
SHRM local chapter meeting I've ever been to, like, that's what I do.
That's a good idea. Why have I never done that? I
I
do
don't
that
know.
at
You should try
parties
it.
with my wife. I mean, that way she can do all the chatting and drag me along. But I need to carry that strategy forward.
Yeah, do it. I mean, the funny thing is, like with my spouse, he is way introverted. Like I didn't even know until like we were engaged and hanging out with new people. And I was like, "Why aren't you saying anything?" He's like, "I just don't have anything to say." And I'm like, "Okay." So I'm the extrovert in the relationship, which is, crazy, but, and he is not. So
We are the alpha and or different sides of the magnet. She could talk to this microphone by herself for an hour, and so
Mm,
well, you're very kind to spend some of your time with me because
sure.
I know how much you have going on. It's really impressive. I think I loved looking at all your stuff. I think the especially the test prep is just fantastic resource. I'm encouraging my team to utilize some of those tools as well. I know a lot of HR people we're recruiting right now. I need a replacement for a generalist, and it's still amazing how many people don't have a certification. And I know there's very little ways to differentiate it based on experience now when you're looking at candidates.
Yep.
That certification is one of them, and people really, if they're in HR and that's what they want to do, grudgingly or not, they need to get that cert.
It's an important step in your career. It's not the only thing, but it is really important for you to demonstrate the HR knowledge base and the expertise
Hmm.
that you have, so that you can come in and get some more experience and then move on to, something new, maybe a manager or director role. So having that certification is really key. I think that a lot of HR folks want to get all the certifications, and I would encourage them just to get the most senior certification that they qualify for, and just be okay with that one certification. Like, you don't
Yeah,
need every letter in the alphabet
yeah,
behind your name. I have two, and the only reason I have two, other than the fact that I teach HR certification prep, but I was grandfathered or grand personed in to the SHRM certification initially. I didn't have to take the test the same way everyone else did. I have since taken the test because I teach the class, but I think a lot of people think, "Oh, I need all the things because everybody has all the
hmm
things." You just need the one that is the most senior for you. And the worst that can happen is you don't pass, but you won't know if you don't try.
No, you're right. And by the way, it's not easy. The test is not easy.
Hard as
The
hell.
SPHR was hard. So you need resources. And I found, like I saw you even have free test questions on there for people to try out, don't you? Like
Yeah,
practice
we've
test
just
questions.
rewritten them. They're actually much better than they were 6 months ago. So it's and I'm trying to do more test question, like situational judgment test questions for the SHRM crew, for those because that exam is really complex. I'll be interested to see pass rate information at the end of this year because I think it's going to drop again, just because they've sort of thrown everybody a curveball. So having practice test questions is incredibly important. Ours are different because they're organized by topic. So we have sections just on talent acquisition. I have a section on global HR, like, and so on. So you can test your knowledge on just recruiting, TA, and then decide if you score high enough, like, don't study that stuff anymore. Move
Yeah.
on to global or learning development or whatever it is that you're really struggling with. But don't keep studying stuff you already know.
Yeah. No, that's good advice too, because there is a lot of study time that goes into it. If you look at, I did one of those things where I bought all the spec when they had those little things called DVDs that you could put into a
Yeah.
computer.
Yeah. Well, that's actually why I made my audio course, because that's how I did save David Seiler's audio course back in the day. He had
Yeah.
audio information and he doesn't sell that now. So we offer an audio only course. It's called Ace HR Audio, and it's 7.5 hours of review. And it's really just you're listening to me and my sexy podcast voice, and I'm
Right.
talking about, executive order 11246, and I describe it twice, and then I move on to the next thing, and I do that for 7.5 hours, and you listen to it on your schedule while you're driving, while you're working out, while you're in the car pickup line, whatever. But it's just another way to help learn the information and take advantage of that sort of time that's being like that's free while you're in transition in those places.
And who wouldn't want to listen to the sultry tones of Jessica Miller-Merrell while they're working out and they're on that treadmill?
So funny when people say that, like, I'll like they know me because they've been listening to me for 8 months while they prep for their
Right.
HR exam. I'm like, okay, I'm glad that you passed. Somebody said in a Facebook group, they tagged me in last night. We have a guided meditation for stress because I have a lot of anxiety. So I made it for myself and for other people. But we have one just for test prep. And it's me, and I go you through a 15-minute guided meditation. It's on my YouTube channel. And I talk, get you into a positive state of mind in preparation for exam. And one of the gals tagged me last night, and she said, I couldn't sleep. So I listened to Jessica on her guided meditation, and I went to sleep. And the next day I passed. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, that's the purpose. But I didn't really think that anybody would use it but me.
Well, it's like, that's how people quit smoking at one time, right? They just listen to this stuff at night.
I love guided meditation. Like when I am having anxiety, that's what I do. I listen to my things on Audible, and they're so great. And then I find myself like 2 days later saying, yes, I can do this. And then I realize the same things that are coming out of my mouth are what I've been listening for the last 2 nights. It's
Really?
a little creepy. It's a little creepy. Yes, there's a weight loss one, like good food choices or something. And something came out of my mouth. And then I think the next night I woke up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was listening to the voice tell me those same things. And I was like, wow, that is a little creepy. But I'm not going to tell you any wrong things. I'm just going to tell you you're great and you're smart and you don't have any anxiety, and you're going to pass the exam.
Well, it worked for Stuart Smalley on Saturday Night Live. It's got to work here.
You're good enough. You're smart enough. And doggone it, people like me.
And you're going to pass that damn test.
That's right. You're going to ace it. You're going to pass it.
Well, I think that's a good place for us to wrap it.
All right. Awesome.
You are a fantastic guest. Thank you so much for coming on. And I'll continue to be a fan of yours. If you guys are ever slumming it and need a guest on that podcast of yours, please do reach out, because I've got stories.
Well, let's get you in for 2022. It's so bizarre. Like I'm full for 2021. Like we are at max capacity. Like I'm already got it all done. So we'll put you on the schedule for 2022, and you can let's have you on the CHRO series talking about what you do.
Yeah, man. That'd be awesome. That would be fantastic. All right. Well, Jessica, thank you so much. Have a great day and enjoy your weekend coming up.
You too. All right. See you later.
Bye-bye.